Oahspe, Part 3, Introduction Continued. Unfortunately, this ambitious project was an example of what an incredible degree of willpower and an incredible amount of money could accomplish when the quality of people needed to make such an undertaking a success was sadly lacking. The Book of Shalom was meant to be a parable, an allegory, a lesson in the form of a story used to illustrate what the society of the future will be like when humanity has progressed to a point in this new era where it will be able to live in a higher way. This transformation will not be sudden, nor will it occur through the imposition of a proverbial utopia. Rather, the implication is that this societal shift will first develop from a new social structure that functions in parallel with the old, but which will gradually displace the old by attrition, not revolution. This will be a world in which a society governed by rigid laws and regulations, self-serving majorities, and special interest will be gradually supplanted by an alternate society governed by sincere selfishness and compassion, with a commonly held reverence for our Creator, by conviction and choice, not by force. The culmination will be a society that universally recognizes and nurtures that of God in everyone, and intuitively structures its community and interpersonal relationships accordingly. As difficult as it may be to comprehend, all wars and terrorism will have ceased. Unfortunately, as a society, we are not much closer to that state of mind now than we were more than a century ago when Dr. Newbrough's Shalom was attempted. But that does not mean that such a harmonious, selfless order of society will never come to pass. And according to Oahspe, just the first segment, arc, of this era, called Cosmon, spans approximately 3,000 years. Dr. Newbrough, however, embraced the idea of this possibility with a passion, and after several false starts and many difficulties, he managed to set the stage for his experiment near La Cruces, New Mexico in 1884. An undertaking of such magnitude at that time would not have been easy under the best of circumstances. But Dr. Newbrough made the project unnecessarily complicated and burdensome by his mistaken conviction to interpret the Book of Shalom literally and going to a place where the world's people would not live to make it a place of peace and beauty. It is easy to say in retrospect that the project was driven more by blind idealism than by common sense. But the fact remains that the effort was a sad failure and a painful lesson in the realities of human nature in its present and undeveloped state. For a factual, reasonably unbiased, and scholarly account of this experiment, we recommend reading Shalom, Utopia on the Rio Grande, 1881 through 1907, by Lee Priestley, 1998, El Paso, Texas, Texas Western Press, or viewing the documentary Utopia on the Rio Grande by Robin Riley, 2010. John Newbrough was born on June 5, 1828, in Mohicanville, Ohio, near Worcester. Though he was raised on a farm by a family with limited means, he eventually was able to attend Cincinnati Medical College and established himself as a practicing physician. During his schooling, however, he gained experience in dentistry, and after finding life as a physician too disturbing for his sensitive nature, he turned his efforts to dentistry instead. Following the completion of his education, he joined the 1849 gold rush to California, where he was successful at accumulating a small fortune. He later compounded that fortune in the gold fields of Australia. He then moved on to world travel, eventual marriage, and by about 1859, he established residency in New York City. There he pursued his practice in dentistry for the next 25 years. He became one of the prominent dentists of New York City, and he was innovative enough to develop a revolutionary and inexpensive composition for dental plates that made the appliances more accessible to the poor. Throughout his life, Dr. Newbrough displayed a natural mediumistic ability of high caliber. He often received spirit communications that made him aware that there is more to the world around us than what is apparent to our normally limited senses, and that there is much more meaning and purpose to our lives than what we can deduce from our experience during our limited time on the mortal plane. He became convinced that the information received from friends and relatives who had crossed the veil was of limited value, and that if he wanted to receive enlightened information from more highly developed sources, he needed to prepare himself in ways that would make himself more amenable to their enlightened presence. Perhaps this notion was impressed upon him by those in spirit who were already grooming him as a potential candidate for the imminent transmission of Oahspe. Whether or not the idea was inspired, he did convert to a strict vegetarian lifestyle, and he followed a prayerful discipline to purify both mind and body. During this time, he continued to be exercised for mediumistic development by an overshadowing that asked him countless questions no mortal could answer intelligently, but perhaps directed his mind into a more spiritually compatible point of reference.